The UK will never forget Sudan, says David Lammy, as aid to thousands affected by the war doubled to more than 110 million. I'm going to read into this more from Sky News, you guys. Let's go. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. This is Reganelite here with an article from Sky News with the headline that the UK will never forget Sudan, says David Lammy, as aid to thousands affected by the war doubled to more than £110 million. The Foreign Minister said the war in Sudan has caused unimaginable suffering, with more than 500,000 in the Darfur region in famine conditions. Guys, while you're here, make sure you hit the like button and share this across social media so others are notified of this video. So those who watch my world news live streams or premiere videos, such as World News Round or Snowflake Corner, will know that every now and then I do cover Sudan. I've covered this conflict for quite a long time, since it started. Even very early days on the channel, I was talking about why this started. And the two bastard generals who are ultimately responsible for this have not faced any repercussions and have continuously, under both separate armies, from the Rapid Support Forces to the Sudanese forces, have just continuously waged this continuous war, and they have made life a living hell for its people. They have made it near to next impossible for the UN to get aid into Sudan, almost impossible at times, and the result has led to many Sudanese who were expecting a democratic government or a civilian administration government to come in, and instead both these generals decided to be sour grapes and basically did a coup and basically stopped any kind of thing happening, and this is why we have this war now. It is a lot more than that, to be fair, but it's so infuriating. It's very, very rare that I hear the UK talk about Sudan throughout the year and a half that I've been keeping an eye on this conflict. And the reason why it is because their eyes are elsewhere. There is the war in Ukraine. There is what's happening in the Middle East. Those are more because they're a bit closer to home, because the Middle East and because Israel are our friends and allies that we must protect at all costs. They obviously take priority. But things that are happening in Africa, people really don't hear a lot about, or don't read up enough about it. And Sudan is another country that is suffering. As it says there, over 500,000 in the Darfur region in famine conditions. Millions and millions of Sudanese have fled the country to neighbouring countries around them, but many of them have also fled to Egypt, and some have even attempted to try and make that horrible crossing into Europe as an opportunity lays bare there. Now, while I'm happy that the that more aid is being as more money is being pumped by the UK government, for me, while I'm happy about that, the solution for me is, what are we doing on an international stage to apply pressure on both sides to come to agree to any kind of negotiations? That is what the question that I would be asking. What are we doing to ensure that we can sort something out, that arrange something, that we can get them around the table? Because this petty war, and I do call it a petty war, is killing people, destroying people. And the famine and the horror that's taking place in Sudan is almost, I think it's even fair to argue, is even worse than what's happening in Gaza at times. There are counterintuitive arguments to it, but it is just as horrible. But it doesn't get nowhere near as much coverage. But as much as I'm pleased with this UK government, are they doing their part into helping secure some kind of negotiations towards getting both sides around the table to secure some kind of negotiated ceasefire? Something, at least, to give the people of Sudan a breath. So the UK will double the amount of aid to Sudan and neighbouring countries, providing more than £110 million to those affected by the war. The Foreign, Commonwealth and Development Office, the FCDO, said the package doubles the UK's aid commitments and will assist more than 600,000 in Sudan. In total, £43.5 million in funding will be provided to the UN and NGO partners to provide food, cash, shelter, medical assistance, water and sanitation in the country, which is good. Which again, I'm pleased of, but for me, it's about what are we doing to de-escalate, to get them around the corner, to negotiate and sort something out that could lead to a potential ceasefire, potentially peace. That's what I'm looking at. For more than 700,000 who have fled the war to neighbouring Chad, South Sudan, Uganda, Libya and other countries, the FCDO have allocated £69.5 million for a total of £113 million. The war in Sudan started last April when a transition from military to civilian rule collapsed, after disagreements about how the paramilitary rapid support forces would be integrated into the military. Yeah, and the RSF basically didn't want to be part of it, and then this is where it all went wrong. The Foreign Secretary David Lammy said the war has caused unimaginable suffering, adding that the people of Sudan need more aid, which is why the UK is helping to provide much needed food, shelter and education for the most vulnerable. But we cannot deliver aid without access. Starvation must not be used as a weapon of war, and we can only stop this famine if every border crossing and route is open for accessible and safe. Mr. Lammy then said he would use the UK presidency of the UN Security Council to press for a resolution that ensures the protection of civilians and unrestricted passage of aid, he added. The UK will never forget Sudan. Violence between the RSF and the Sudanese Armed Forces SAF have since led to the deaths of at least 20,000 according to the UN. However, the London School of Hygiene and Tropical Medicine Sudan Research Group said earlier this week that it believes more than 61,000 have died in Khartoum's state alone, where the fighting began. And it's hard to know for sure because it's near to next impossible for any kind of media access to get inside of the country because their safety is not guaranteed in any way, shape or form by either side, which is why you don't get no media coverage with it because their safety is not guaranteed. They could easily just get shot. Like that's like there's no if they go with the military or whatever, there's no guarantee of safety or whatnot. And the RSF have been accused of committing genocide attempts, wiping out entire villages, ethnic cleansing. They have been reports of, and they have denied those allegations as well. And also, the United Arab Emirates have allegedly been weaponized, have been supplying weapons and arms to the rapid support forces, which they deny as well, which is also not helpful. After 18 months of war, the FCDO said more than 500,000 in the Darfur region are in famine conditions, with more than 11 million people have been displaced and 25 million are in desperate need of aid. 25 million people, guys. Think about that number. That's insane. And you talk about the situation in Gaza. Why is this not getting as much of a talk? Minister of State for the Department, Anisina Dole, also said in an FCDO statement, the humanitarian crisis in Sudan is worsening. Famine and disease are spreading, and by next year many more will be in desperate need of aid. We have to prevent further suffering by acting now. Both the RSF and SFF have been accused of war crimes by Sudan in the UN. Human Rights Watch have also accused the RSF of ethnic cleansing in Darfur, which it denies. I will also point this out here, and I think it's very, very important context. I have not seen any video or photo evidence of ethnic cleansing, but there has been lots of reporting that the RSF have been doing this, but they have vehemently denied this, but I have not seen any. So I want to put that on the record. But either way, this conflict is for me, it's an unnecessary one, and it's a really tragedy that civilian government could not come into fruition for the sake of the people of Sudan. Is it possible that there may have been other political factors or influences taking place that caused it to collapse? That is entirely possible as well. But for so many people, this, like many other nations in different parts of the world, Myanmar, Middle East, even in what's happening in certain nations in South America, which is what's leading to global migration, the increase, in global migration. Unless we help these nations out, unless we help them get back on their feet, unless we help them secure peace, ceasefires, bring stability to these places where they can have the homes, the schools, the farmlands, the water, the basic necessities that they can have a decent life in their countries, then they would not need to leave them. But when you look at what's happening in Sudan, it's incredibly heartbreaking, and more needs to be done. Now, I'm not saying that we should go in guns blazing or anything like that, but there needs to be they need to apply what international community in the UN need to apply far more pressure on both sides to secure some kind of negotiation at least. But what do you guys think? Do you think David Lammy can do anything? Do you think the international community is doing enough? Do you think the mainstream media does a very piss poor job of covering this conflict? Because I think they do. But what do you guys honestly think about it all? Let me know your thoughts and more down in the comments section below. If you found this video informative, please hit the like button. We greatly appreciate it. Share this across social media so others are notified of this video. If you haven't subscribed already, please consider subscribing, because it really does help support the channel. If you want to go one step further, financially support me and the work that I do here, you can do so by becoming a YouTube member for as little as 99p. Or join me on Rumble or Patreon for exclusive content on those platforms. So thank you all so much for watching, and I hope to catch you all very, very soon.